Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Today. I'm Charlie Bengel.
And I'm Eyerusalem Meaza. Grab a cup of coffee and let's make your real estate career better.
Happy Friday, Eyerusalem. Good to see you as always. What's in the news today?
Happy Friday. Okay. So mortgage rates set yet another record low, but home buyers pulled back. Let's go back to the headline. Okay. It almost doesn't sound like news anymore. Mortgage rates fell to another record low last week that yet reinvigorated refinance demand. Homebuyers, however, took a step back. Total mortgage application volume rose 5.1% last week compared with the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. Mortgage demand got a lift from another big drop in mortgage rates. The average contract interest rate for 30-year fixed rate mortgages with conforming loan balances of up to $510,400 decreased to 3.19% from 3.26%. Points, including the origination fee, decreased to 0.33 from 0.35 for loans with a 20% down payment. That rate is 63 basis points lower than the recent high in late March. Applications to refinance a home, which are most sensitive to weekly rate moves, jumped 12% for the week and were 107% higher than a year ago. The refinance share of mortgage activity increased to 64.2% of total applications from 60.1% the previous week. Record low rates caused Fannie Mae to improve its housing outlook for the second half of the year. The continued decline in mortgage rates pushed up our refinance volume forecast by about $100 billion, says Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae's chief economist. At the current mortgage rate estimate, we estimate that nearly 60% of all outstanding loan balances have at least a half percentage point incentive to refinance. Demand from home buyers fell back 6% for the week and was 16% stronger than a year ago. That annual comparison, though, was half of what it was 2 weeks ago. Purchase activity remains relatively strong despite the continued economic uncertainty and high unemployment caused by the ongoing pandemic, says Joel Kahn, MBA's Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting. The biggest hurdles to home buying today are a lack of supply and rising prices, especially on the lower end of the market. The nation's home builders are benefiting from that. Mortgage applications to purchase a newly built home were up over 50% in June annually. Builders, however, are struggling to keep up with the new demand, especially since they are basically shut down their operations in March and April. In other news, the National Association of Realtors and the National Association of Home Builders launched a new joint initiative, Home Performance Counts, designed to help consumers better understand the rapidly growing high-performance home marketplace, homes that prioritize comfort, durability, wellness, and affordability. Demand for such housing has expanded over recent years, with the number of homes certified to the National Green Building Standard increasing by more than 57% since 2017. With today's home buyers looking for healthier, more efficient homes, America's 1.4 million realtors are proud to join forces with the National Association of Home Builders to build rapport and highlight the benefits of home performance to U.S. consumers, said NAR President Vince Malta, broker at Malta & Co. Inc. in San Francisco, California. Clients come to our members looking for the very best homes they can afford, and with green building practices often leading to homes that are more durable and require less maintenance, NAR is excited to strengthen our partnership with NAHB to help more Americans find the high-performing, efficient home of their dreams. Through their joint Home Performance Counts initiative, NAR and NAHB have come together to offer a comprehensive resource that educates consumers on the qualities and benefits of high-performance homes and facilitates communication on home performance between buyers, builders, and real estate agents. As these practices continue to evolve, NAR and NAHB will provide regular updates on new resources that examine the most recent market trends and sustainability research. Home Performance Counts provides a common ground for our two organizations to work together to raise awareness to the benefits of green homes and the key rural home builders and real estate agents can play in the home buying process to ensure buyers get the high performance home of their dreams. Builders and realtors will also benefit from using a common language and having access to the latest trend data and information, says NAHB Chairman Chuck Fow, a custom home builder from Tampa, Florida. In other news, As remote working grows more common, homeowners are trying to carve out more space indoors and out for a dedicated home office. When space is tight or household noise is too loud, some homeowners are taking their office outside. The backyard home office is a growing trend, the New York Times reports. Some homeowners are taking inspiration from the man cave and she shed phenomenon of the last few years and putting up shed-style home offices. For example, the company Studio Shed offers prefabricated panels that can be shipped, built, and assembled in a backyard to create a 100 square foot home office. James Wilson in Oakland, California, who works in finance, and his wife, Meg Wilson, a nurse practitioner who engages in telehealth, used one to create a private backyard office. From the time they ordered it until their backyard office was complete spanned a little over 4 weeks at a cost of $31,000. Space-constrained homeowners are looking for solutions for workspace. For some, it's even been motivation to move. A recent survey of real estate agents conducted by HomeLight says that a designated home office will likely be the most desirable or important feature to homebuyers in the post-pandemic era. Homeowners who want to stay put are turning to their backyard to make space. Several companies are touting backyard solutions like Kangaroo systems. Units start at about $5,000 for an 80 square foot kit that the buyer can assemble, and companies like Modern Shed. These companies can ship standalone structures that can be assembled by homeowners to keep their home offices separate from their living spaces. Charlie, what's going on with rates?
From your she shed, Eyerusalem?
Yeah, she said.
All right. 30-year fixed rates, 3 1/8. These have held steady for the last week or so. These are purchase rates based on the DC metropolitan area, brought to us by PNC Mortgage. 30-year jumbo, as we announced several days ago, is now below 3%. FHA and VA loans are at 2 3/4. There was a big headline, kind of front page Washington Post yesterday, talking about rates and the fact that they dipped below 3% for the first time ever. So it remains a good time to buy. And if you have a higher rate, it makes sense to check out, go to your favorite lender and have a discussion about refinancing as well. Back over to Eyerusalem, who's going to talk about the market.
In the last week in Hampton Roads, we saw 775 new listings hit the market, 859 properties go pending, and 749 properties sold. In the last week in the Washington metro area, within 30 miles of the White House, we saw 1,406 new listings hit the market, 2,018 go pending, and 1,420 sold. Back over to Charlie with our special guest.
So we are continuing to see more properties go under contract than actually hit the market, which shows that demand remains super strong. I would like to welcome back to the show Coach Amy Lassen. Amy, always good to see you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Charlie.
We survived tax extension day on Wednesday and our discussion around that. So now we're going to, I think today and Monday, we're trying to get deep into listing presentation, because we know that having a listing right now, as long as it's priced right and at a decent location and shows well, is basically like getting a paycheck. So everybody's clamoring, how do I get more listings? So, Amy, how do they get more listings?
Well, I think you just made a really important point that I don't know that I thought we were going to address, and that is you can sell just about anything right now. So true. I think you have to really know what you're talking about. I said this to an agent the other day. I said, if they could put a sign on their fence and get 2 offers,
right,
what do they need you for? And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm really trying to get us to all really look at this, because I honestly believe the amount of exposure that I and my closest friend agents give to properties is what creates a really strong showing, right? Really strong viewing and incredible multiple offers over any recent sales, and then justification to an appraiser with a stack of other offers. So I think using an agent is absolutely vital to getting top dollar and keeping your wits about you. So the agent has to believe that, and the agent needs to be able to communicate that.
Yes, and it's funny that you bring this up, because literally an hour ago I was having a conversation with a coaching client near Detroit, and she has a client who was ready to use her to buy, but wanted to FSBO the house that he needs to sell, in order to buy. And he was going to sell it to some coworker off market or something. And she's like, why don't we put it on the market? I'm going to get you more money, right? My fee will be covered because I can get you more money, get you a higher net than if you were to sell to this colleague. And he's in. So she's going to end up, getting that listing. And she already had, the sale, when he cashes out. But, I thought that she handled that discussion rather well. So, it's not just sign, lockbox, take a few pictures, put it in the MLS. It might sell, but you're not going to get the same amount that you're going to get if you're applying the standards that you and I have talked about. Every agent should have a standard, right? What is your standard? Are we marketing like we always market to try to get more eyeballs on that house and drive the price up?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, although you're right that you could sell it with a sign in the yard, you may not get the listing if that's what you pitch.
Right.
And in every boom market, the number of licenses goes up dramatically. So every MLS has way more realtors, way more licensed realtors than they had 5 years ago. And they may be part-time agents, they may be full-time agents. Charlie, you and I know, and I think everyone knows, some little crazy newbie who appeared on the scene 2 years ago who seems to be wiping the floor with a lot of people.
Right.
It's like, just when you think it's hard to break into a market, somebody with absolute gumption who puts their best foot forward really can take a strong market share. So all this to say, the way you present yourself and the way you present your value absolutely matters. And that's what we're going to talk about today and Monday.
Awesome. So where do we want to start today?
So I guess I'm beating this to death, but until you guys listen, I'm going to keep saying it. Expectation setting is absolutely key. You have to let the seller understand what's about to happen. Don't leave them begging you for more information, calling you later saying, wait, when is this going to be? And did we need to talk about? And you're like, oh crap, I forgot to cover that. You need to cover everything. You need a really, really detailed checklist and make sure nothing is left out. I recommend, and Charlie, I think you do too, that you can send kind of the warm, fuzzy stuff in advance. I'm a great agent. I've been doing this long. I have these credentials. My brokerage has this market share. All of that can come in advance, along with testimonials, a map of your sales, big picture market trends, maybe some of the talking points that you and I have given, Charlie, about properties are seeing all-time highs. You could have some of that stuff in there. I would never send my CMA, and I know agents that do. So if you have a technique, don't feel stopped by me. But I want to explain the current comps in person.
Agreed, along with my fee in person. So those are the two that I'm not sending in advance. But yeah, I like the idea of, listen, I'm going to send you a book. I'd love for you to spend some time looking at the book, so you get to know me, my company, what we're going to do to market your home for sale, and our results. So when I get to the house, we make it all about you and your needs, because we know that most people don't send anything. We know that most people, when they get there, they just throw up Remax or Coldwell or whoever you work for, right, all over the client. And the agent typically is making the appointment about the agent and not really the seller and their needs. So I really think that it's still a pretty big differentiator.
Absolutely. I shared on a previous show that I had converted mine to a flip book. It just make it look a little bit more polished. I think it's really important that you stick to a standard process. I had this backfire on me recently when I had an old friend contact me to say, I'm under contract on a house in Florida. I need you to list my house here in Colorado, like within days.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, when did this happen? And she said, well, I haven't heard back yet on the house. I haven't heard back if my offer is accepted. Well, it wasn't. But we had a very brief conversation about what it would entail to get this thing launched fast.
Okay.
And I recommended that I would send my stager sooner than later to just give her advice about what to pack. I didn't define staging. What does the consumer know?
Right.
I wasn't offering to replace all her furniture, Okay. So I really needed to be, even though we were in a hurry and she wasn't ready for the full presentation, if I say staging, I can't drop word bombs without definitions. So I called her back yesterday and I said, I want to be really clear. She can come anytime you have time in your schedule. It's going to be a 2-hour consultation. She's going to walk through and take detailed notes and give us a really good report. And then you and I can talk about whatever changes we think would be best based on her report. We've all got to do a better job of communicating. Right. And you got to do it both in writing and explaining with your voice.
Yeah, I like it. And having a system to do that, so you're not, it's okay, now we're on step 4. I need to make sure that she understands what the staging consult is, right? The movers are not showing up to swap out the furniture today, right? It's just a consultation.
Yes, right. So I am just like all of you. I was caught between coaching calls with a whoa, right? So I need a standard protocol, and I have it, but it just, in that moment, it's an old friend. I just throw something out. And I think you all, can remember times that you did something similar. So follow a standard process. And Charlie, if you want, we can just follow an outline and make sure we talk about what's in your standard process.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great. So first things first, and we've talked about this in previous shows, you should have already had your interview to talk about who's going to be involved and when this needs to happen, and assess their motivation. Follow the seller questionnaire that is on the allegianceway.com. That'll get you started. Then I think it would be ideal to communicate something in advance of your arriving. We talked about the warm and fuzzy, and maybe that's a bad description of it, but the more that send the about me in advance. When we get there, we're going to make it about you. So send the about me in advance and figure out how many things you can include in that. There's quite a bit of expectation setting you can do in advance.
Yes.
Keep in mind, however, if you dump all of the here's how appraisals work, here's how inspection works, if you dump all your explaining into that initial document and they don't read it, they don't know.
Right.
Expectations are not set just because you send an email. So I would be very, very careful to explain those things. When you actually do your presentation, again, define all the things that you talk about, and don't say, I asked them if they wanted me to. I asked them if they wanted me to explain, and they said no.
Right.
No.
Yep.
Just explain. Because not everyone means the same things, right? And I've had people say to me, oh, they've sold a house before. That's not a thing.
Not in this market.
They had a different agent. They were in a different market. They had a different experience. No matter what, you are here to educate them about your service. Don't assume that this is intuitive. So do a really good job of understanding your own service. And I was talking to a coach and client the other day about taking the time, however many times you need to, like once a day, until you get comfortable to read your own listing presentation to yourself. Don't show up unprepared and say, oh, I'm just so nervous. I don't do this very often. Well, that's your fault, right? Don't practice brain surgery on the patients. Practice it on the cadaver.
So I send out a book, you send out an email. The point is we're sending collateral, right? Let's say they even review it. You are a proponent, however, of still showing up with some marketing samples. Let's talk more specifically about what happens when you show up.
So when we show up, I always think we need to be reassessing motivation, because I think miscommunication happens, right?
Okay.
What do you say, Charlie? Conflict arises when expectations differ.
Yes.
So reestablish, here's what we're here to talk about today, right? We're going to go through things for about an hour, longer if you guys want. I years ago showed up to a listing presentation, and the woman had backed competing agents back to back in 30-minute increments. I had no idea. Did not see that coming. So, my fault for not saying, I'll arrive at this time. It'll take at least an hour. So make sure you understand, here's what we're here to establish tonight. Is that what you had in mind, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, right?
Good. Yes.
And then maybe you didn't talk to both of them on the phone. So say, I talked to Brandon and he said that, moving to Austin by such and such time is ideal. Is that what you were thinking also, Sharon? And just get clear.
Okay.
Everyone. I appreciate what you said about bring samples. So for me, because I do these now via Zoom.
Yep.
I don't know whatever state you're in. Right now, masks are really strongly encouraged.
Yes.
So I have tried showing up. Mask and gloves and paper is just not ideal. Zoom is fantastic. You can share your screen. And I find, Charlie, actually, that it's a little bit cleaner than even before sitting around an iPad on a couch with a couple trying to go through the collateral.
Right.
So I have my MLS up and ready to go through the comps.
Okay.
Have marketing samples, video, print, all the different things that I do that I can show them my book of work, right?
Okay.
We talked about a portfolio of work.
Yep.
And then be prepared with a net sheet. Don't make them guess what all the costs will be. They don't understand.
Right.
When settlement has finished all the process, what will be involved. So yeah, I have all that queued up in different tabs.
So if you're using Zoom, at what point do they take you through the house? Have they done that previously, like on FaceTime or on Zoom, then you go back and you work your comps, or are you doing that as part of this appointment like we normally would, right? We would show up, we would walk through the house, kind of build rapport, and when are you doing that over Zoom?
Boy, I think that's a really good question, and maybe you and I should debate it right here.
Yeah, I've always been an advocate of one appointment. Now, I know in some markets, it's pretty common for the agent to go visit, take a look at the house, right, and then come back with comps.
Right.
At least in my market, I don't think you have that opportunity often, right? Somebody comes in, swoops in, grabs the listing, and there's no second appointment.
Correct. That's what
how have you done it in the past on Zoom during that first kind of pre-call when you're going through the seller questionnaire? Are you doing a home tour, or are you doing that during the regular listing appointment like you would normally do, a physical listing appointment? I'm just curious how you're personally doing it.
Right. Well, it so depends on your market, and now about how many more historic homes you guys have than us.
Yeah.
I'm in a much newer market with many more tract homes.
Right.
So, the really custom nature of your homes is a factor.
Yep.
But I think the most important thing is about the relationship with the client, because if you have a strong relationship with them, you might be able to do it in any particular order. But I shared that I actually lost a listing from a neighbor because the first thing I did was go over mask and gloves to tour their house. I was prepared to walk them through everything on Zoom thereafter, and I was the third agent, and they were over it.
Okay.
So I feel that putting my value first should have come first. Smiling in a mask just doesn't take you as far as you might think.
Right.
So the next one, without ever having seen the home, I had a referral and got the clients on there immediately on Zoom as soon as they were able, and walked them through the vision and said, here's what we're up against. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Right. And they're like, oh, this feels good. This is great. When can you come over?
Yep.
And that totally worked. And then we talked about a few repair items. We talked about getting some support from a stager. So I think for me, that's how I would do it, because putting your value forward is super important. You've got to tell them, here's what I'm going to do for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost a pre-listing appointment on Zoom, right? This is not something we probably would have done a year ago. Right. So you're almost doing a mini listing presentation on Zoom, getting them to buy in, building rapport, then going over, right? And then, do you have any additional questions? You're going over the comps, you're going over so it's almost like that pre-listing book that we would send, you're also doing that on Zoom.
Yes.
Right. And that, I don't think many agents are doing that. So, I think that's interesting, trying to build rapport over Zoom before you go over and you actually meet with the client, you walk through the house. Think
about, go ahead, finish what you're going to say.
I was just going to say, those pre-listing questions to the seller, the number of agents that I talk to that do not use those and get caught flat-footed when they get to the house is staggering.
Yeah.
The number of agents that have been agents for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, they'll say to me on a coaching call or a group coaching call, I'm afraid they're going to want too much for the house. And I said, well, did you ask them yet? Well, no. Well, should you? Well, okay, maybe, right? Or what's the condition of the house, right? What's the, did you just remodel the kitchen?
Sure.
You don't want to walk in and see that the place is a mess and not have some idea based on the questions. So I will continue to implore people until I'm blue in the face to please grab the questions off the allegianceway.com and use them and get into that habit. And those questions are not the maximum number of questions. Depending on their answers, you're going to be asking more questions. You're going to go deeper, as you and I have talked about so many times. Well, so as you were saying.
Well, no, you just made me think of something, and I love it when these shows just sort of go their own organic way and we think of things that we hadn't in real time. It's occurring to me to ask whether you want the listing, whether you're competent to list the house, how much does that depend on the house? Now, in some cases, in extreme cases, sure, the house matters. Is it really, really in bad shape, or is it something way outside of anything that you feel you're competent to represent? That's a possibility. It's not the norm.
Right.
The norm is that you're trying to persuade them that you're good enough for them.
Yes.
The problem is, I think most of us show up relatively unprepared, and we sort of dance through the house trying to say nice things, maybe make some suggestions without insulting them, hope that you're close enough on value to convince them to work with you.
Yep.
Just in this moment, Charlie, I'm thinking this is ridiculous and backwards. If what you have is a service model, a really strong professional service model that helps guide people through buying and selling varieties of types of real estate, if you would present that, and then the second thing we do is we go check out the asset. Okay. So now that we've established we have a plan, we have a plan of attack. Now let's go look at the asset, right? Now we're going to customize our plan of attack based on the thing that we're going to sell. Because really, it's about, are they too crazy for you to take on as clients, right? It's rarely that the house is too crazy. Once in a blue moon. But is the client a good fit for you? Are you a good fit for the client? And when we just show up and make it all about the house, I think we're missing an opportunity to make it about the service. And the house could be secondary. I don't know. Maybe that backfires because I know the owner has so much pride.
You could almost we could almost rewrite our listing process based on this show today and going deeper before you get to the house, right? On Zoom, ideally to build rapport. And, showing your stuff and then sending them the book or whatever, right? So, I mean, I don't think anybody's doing that. I don't know any agent that's getting on Zoom, establishing rapport. You're basically going through the questions on Zoom, right? Instead of just on the phone. And then you're sending out your book and then you're getting there. And I mean, if the seller's motivated, the house almost doesn't matter, right? If they're motivated, we can get it sold, right? Well, even if it backs to train tracks and the whole, anomaly, there was a fire, right? We all know agents that have sold houses that there was a fire and they just walked away. Now that's not normal, but they needed to sell. And so, I mean, I think as you were saying, it's not just about the house.
Well, no, it's not. And I think we have been doing it wrong. So I think, but to your point, Charlie, when you said, let's just do the questionnaire in person, I don't know that that's exactly what I meant, only because what I had envisioned would end up making this a very long Zoom call. If we both did the initial part, the pre-part, the fluff part, if we did all of it on Zoom, it's going to be really long. So I still like the idea of sending your about me to them. Here you go. Here's my testimonial. And then when we get on Zoom, I'm walking them through my service and I'm walking through the strategy. I call it a pricing strategy session or a negotiating strategy session, a marketing strategy session.
In lieu of going to the house.
Not in
lieu. You are doing these on Zoom.
I'm doing it on Zoom.
Period. Right.
House.
So if you're an agent in a market where you're still doing listing presentations or you're back to doing listing presentations in a house, right? Are you skipping? So we're not adding Zoom here, right? You're doing the pre-listing questions either on the phone or you could do them on Zoom, and then you're sending your stuff, right? And then you're going over to the house, you're walking around, you're building rapport as normal, if you will, masked, whatever, to take a look at the house. And then you're talking your pricing and you're talking pricing of the house and the commission, basically. But that's the step that you're just doing that all on Zoom.
Yeah, this is a challenging question, Charlie, because first of all, our markets are going to continue to change.
Right.
As of midnight last night, Colorado, masks are mandatory, not for realtors, for all humans.
Right.
And so I guess I don't even want to speak to, if you have looser rules in your state, do whatever you want. It's going to change.
Yeah.
But here's the problem, Charlie. It will continue to change for the rest of our careers.
Yep.
So do you follow the norm? Whatever other agents do, you do? Or would there be any room for you to change and create a different standard? I don't know. Because Charlie, if COVID were gone a year from now and anybody could do anything they want, would you seem like a weird agent to insist that people meet you on Zoom? I mean, I'm coaching clients who say, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm not giving it back. Like, I'm keeping Zoom. So we have to decide, is there any way to establish our own professional standard that makes it go more smoothly for everyone involved? Maybe we really do have to parse this out and make sure that we don't spend too much time not in person when in person is an option. I'm just realizing as you and I are talking
Yeah.
that I think just showing up and looking at the house is not only a crutch, it's kind of inadequate.
Right.
You know, to just say, if I say nice enough things about your house, maybe you'll hire me.
Yep.
So if we could focus on presenting our service model and then evaluating the house is a second step, that they've already bought in, that they get it. Great.
Right.
When can we start?
Okay, awesome. Let's continue this conversation on Monday.
All righty.
Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday. Back over to Eyerusalem.
Thank you so much for watching. And as always, we are here to make your real estate career better. Have a great
Take care,
weekend.
everybody. Thanks.